So thank you all for being here. My name is Jennifer Franklin. I'm the program director of the Hudson Valley Writer Center. It's wonderful to have this collaboration with TTown. We're really thrilled to have so many of you here tonight, and we thank Kevin for all of the hard work he's put into advertising this wonderful screening. So just a couple of quick thank yous. The Hudson Valley Writer Center couldn't be here without, obviously, our founder, Margot Taft-Stever. We're here tonight because of her. We also wouldn't be here tonight without our board, without Arts Westchester and NISCA, and all of our generous foundations who support us, including the Bydale Foundation, the David G. Taft Foundation, the Rotary Club of the Tarrytowns, the Gannett Foundation, who made this evening possible with getting us a grant, the Fendara Foundation, the Zand Charitable Trust, Westchester Community Foundation, Rockefeller Philanthropy, members, students, and guests. And we want to remind you that our one fundraiser of the year will take place on Zoom on Friday, October 30th. It's going to be an auction, and we will raise money for our Altman scholarships for people of color, as well as for general operating expenses and our capital campaign. And we will honor Don Stever, who's stepping down from being chairman of the board, and Jim Tilley, who's leaving the board right now at the end of the year. And we will also have 5 amazing readers: Toy Jericott and Pulitzer Prize poet Jericho Brown, Catherine Hollibird, who wrote the Angelina Ballerina books, Susan Choi, who is a novelist and a National Book Award winner, and Leslie Jameson, the memoirist and novelist. So we really hope that you'll look at our website and join us for that. Tickets are $150, and I'm sure Kevin will talk to you about his gala as well, because that's coming up in October. But right now, I'd like to hand over the evening to Kevin. Thank you, Kevin Carter, for being here and for introducing Deborah.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. And wow, this is really great. I see the numbers just clicking up and getting higher by the minute. My name's Kevin Carter. I'm the executive director at TTown Lake Reservation. We are a 1,000-acre nature preserve and environmental education center, and we're really proud to be partnering with the Hudson Valley Writer Center. We've partnered before, but this is really, really special tonight for me. I'm a big fan of Deborah's. Our mission at TTown is to inspire our community to lifelong environmental stewardship, and Deborah has certainly been a real inspiration to so many through her work. So I would be remiss if I didn't say, yes, we're another organization that's doing really good work in the region. I see a lot of common friends, which is great. Our organizations have a lot of friends in common. We have a gala coming up, a virtual gala on Sunday, October 4th. You can find out about that on our website. But I really, like I said, I'm just kind of giddy as a fan of Deborah's. I think starting with The Future of Food and seeing that film, and it just shows you the power of art and the power of film. I was actually a film production major in college, so I'm a big film fan. And when I saw that film, it really reveals the power of fairly short time to really move people's thinking forward on an issue. And in a unique way that only film do. And it's just incredible. So I'm so honored to be here tonight and to introduce Deborah. I want to first, though, thank our good friends, Margot and Don Stever. They're part of that common family that our 2 organizations share. And Margot's on our advisory board, and we really love and appreciate her work. She's an amazing poetess, and of course, Don. So thank you guys so much for supporting TTown and for all the good work that you do. And now on to the main event. Deborah Koons Garcia has called Northern California home for over 30 years with her production company based in Mill Valley. She has made fiction, educational, and documentary films. For the last 15 years, she has focused primarily on films about agriculture and the food system. Garcia directed the groundbreaking film The Future of Food, which premiered at Film Forum in New York City. The Future of Food from 2004 examines the alarming issues surrounding the rapidly increasing corporate domination of our food supply. It is the first major film to cover the history and technology of genetic engineering and the complex implications of releasing such crops into the food environment and food supply. The Future of Food helped jumpstart what is now called the food movement and continues to play widely all over the world in theaters and film festivals. Her latest film, Symphony of the Soil, which is currently in wide release, was designated a critic's pick by the New York Times and was shown at the United Nations in New York City on World Soil Day, which launched the UN International Year of the Soils. I'm just so honored to introduce you, and I can't wait to see the film. So thank you so much, Deborah, for sharing with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. And thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for having me. I was really looking forward to being there in person, but here we are. And this will be very interesting. As a filmmaker, I've shown my film in all kinds of environments, and this is the new one. You know, this is the one that we show them in now. So it's really an honor to be here, and I'm looking forward to coming to TTown on my next visit to that area. And I want to thank Margot, and Margot and I have been close friends for many, many years. I first read her poetry when I was a teenager, and she was a teenager. And she was a wonderful poet then, and she still is now. And so I visited her there many times. And when I've come there to show my film or to shoot films, like at Stone Barns, you know, I stay with her, and she chauffeurs me around. And when she comes to the San Francisco Bay Area to read her poems, she stays with me and I chauffeur her around. So we got a bi-coastal thing going. So I think that, you know, film is true. It's a very powerful medium. I first started making films in college 50 years ago. And at that same time, which was Back to the Land and all that kind of thing, I became very aware of food and the relationship between food and health and food and social justice. And so I decided at some point I wanted to make a film that I could say how important it is for people to pay attention to their food choices. And so The Future of Food was that film. I'd made other films, but I finally decided I want to make this film. And people were talking about the perfect peach and the lovely lettuce. And I mean, I live in the Bay Area. I love good food too, but I wanted to go into the food system, what was going on underneath that. And so I just went ahead and made that film. And I didn't know if anybody would want to see it because nobody was really talking about that, but it just hit and people really wanted to see it. It was very, very popular. It played in New York at Film Forum, and then it just moved to IFC. They said, can we go over and pick up the print? So I was at Film Forum for a few weeks, and they just went over and picked up the print, and they played it at IFC. And we sold 40,000 copies to Netflix, which when they were doing DVDs. And it was really interesting, the first really grassroots film, because that was what was happening in technology then, a grassroots film that really created social change. And I really made it community-based and showed it at farms and I mean all over the place, and showed it at theaters and farms and conferences. And so after that film, you know, I did a lot with it, and it was so positive and met such wonderful people. I decided to make a film on soil because that was getting deeper into these issues. And so I researched, and I'm going to give a talk after the film and talk a little bit about the research and how I did that. But when I was first started to shoot, my first shoot, I have this big Scottish cameraman, John Chater, you know, he's this great guy. I've worked with him a lot. And we're setting up the shot, the soil. I said, that's the shot. There it is. It's the soil. And so he set the shot up, and, you know, we're standing there. And then I said, action. And he looked at me and he said, there's nothing happening. You know? And I said, oh, there's so much happening. There's so much happening. So the challenge in making this film was, how do you take film, which is about light and movement, and soil, which is dark and seemingly inert, and bring them together in a satisfying piece that includes science and art. And I love filmmaking, and I love that kind of challenge. And that this film has also been, it's been great. It's been, you know, very well received, and I've been all over the world with it and met all kinds of great people. And so it's, you know, now I'm happy to bring it to you. And I also want to thank Don, Steve, or Margot and Don, because they've been very supportive. You know, whenever my film is showing somewhere, or I need some, you know, they come and it's great, or I stay with them and we go. And it's great to have allies in that part of the world that you feel like you're welcome and they're supporting you. And it's part of what makes filmmaking such a wonderful process. This film itself, which is an incredible challenge and very exciting. And then there's the people you get to be around when you make the film and when you show the film. So, so anyway, I really loved making this film, and I hope you enjoy watching it. Thank you. The question. I'm a great believer in mixing science and art, because there's a lot of art and science, and there's a lot of science and art. And I think that I hadn't seen this film in a while, and it brought back a lot of memories of making it and showing it, and all the challenges of making it. So I guess for me, the challenge is to use a highly technological means to help people understand and connect with the natural world. And my intention is to inform and inspire and fortify people so that we can make the changes that we need to make. And I would like to talk a little bit about science, because I think science is from the Latin word sciere, which means to know. So science is about what we know. And so the way that people develop science is that they create a theory, they observe. And in soil science, people can observe using microscopes and satellites and all kinds of things. And I think to mix science, what we know, with art, which helps move us, so we have a cognitive understanding and a heart understanding of what it is we're observing, is the way to make very powerful change. So I'm happy to see. I'm happy to see that I can still be moved by this film, even though I made it. Even though I went to all these places and did all these things. One of the things I wanted to talk about is that I began, as I said, I began making film 50 years ago when I was in college, and I was an English major, and I discovered film. I borrowed a Bolex camera, and I moved from reading and writing English to trying to learn about and master film language, where there's a lot of, this film is a very filmic. This film is a really good example of lots of different kinds of film language, and that can have everything to do with what kind of shots you use, to what kind of movement you have, and the music and the art and the everything to keep us fully engaged in the film. And that the animation is something that I knew it's an interesting story. I knew I wanted handmade animation because computer animation is good in its place, but this is a very earthy and organic film, and I wanted that process in the art. And so I knew that there must be someone somewhere that had that style, and I figured there was someone in LA who went to Cal Arts who knew how to do that, who did that. And I found a young man who had just graduated from Cal Arts, and he was teaching at a community college. And so he and his students actually made with good direction from us, they made they did watercolor of each shot. So it was Disney style. And so that's why there's so much movement and beauty in it. And I didn't want it to have people removed from the natural world. I wanted them to be in the natural world. So that's why I did that. It's funny, I have all these notes here, but but some of it just seems irrelevant now. One of the things I want to say that I see in this film is my philosophy of filmmaking is that I want people to feel when they start watching one of my films that they're in good hands, that they can be open to the film and they can take it in. And it's also I want people to feel that they are in the film, absorbed in the film completely, as you would be in a theater watching some fiction film. And if when I'm making the film and I'm when I'm finally screening the final completed film, if people are brought out of the film, then that goes. So everything in this film, I feel, is very conducive to that. I felt like, even though I've seen this film many, many times, I feel like I was still interested and absorbed in the film. And I do think beauty is important, craft is important. The music, there are three things that when I did massive research for this film, and read many soil books and soil textbooks, and you take all that material and distill it into the final film. And so what I used was basically to make sense of all that material and how to bring it together. I used three concepts, and one of them was soil as the protagonist of our planetary story. And that was, and soil has, as we saw, soil is born, it grows, it develops, it ages, it has relationships, it develops characteristics according to where it is, and that is, and it can die. So that was one way I made sense of it. Another way is I used the classic 3-act structure. Is the first third of the film is soil and is its essence, its nature. And the second act is soil and our relationship, our human relationship to it, which is primarily agriculture. And the third part of the film is soil and big ideas, soil and climate change, soil and water, soil and feeding the world. And so it builds once you get to know soil, and then you see our relationship to it. It builds into that sense of how important it is that we treat soil well, because we are dependent on soil, and it just brings it all back. And then the last thing I did to make sense of the film, when I thought of the title Symphony of the Soil, I figured that soil is like a symphony. There are many parts to it, and there are different rhythms, and in symphonies there are different rhythms and instruments and sounds, and in soil there's all these different elements working together for a complex whole, to make a complex whole. And that allowed me to really use music to help carry the emotion and information forward, because film is primarily an emotional medium. Even if there's information in it, that information leads to an emotion in the viewer. That it's just the kind of medium it is. And I told my composer, Todd Buckelhide, I said, I'm going to call it Symphony of the Soil. So I mean it. I want it to feel like a symphony. I want the music to be very, very strong and powerful and move people. And I want it to be, different themes, and I want it to be a very strong part of it. And he's such a wonderful composer. His music is so beautiful and so moving. And I was thrilled, I was thrilled by what he brought to that, and how he really deepened the emotion of the film, and even the sad parts, the tragic parts of what we're doing to soil and what's been done. It makes it, to me, not despairing, but tragic in a way that allows us, I hope to be able to change things. So that's that. And the other interesting thing that happened was that halfway through the film, after I'd seen all of the destruction that agriculture can do and what it's done to the earth, there's a saying that says the plow has been more destructive than the sword in terms of this planet. And I think that that's really true. So I said to Ignacio Chapella, who's sort of my ally in this, and I said one day, I'm not going to have any agriculture in this film. I just can't do it. I can't, I just don't want to do it because it's so destructive. We're just going to have soil. And So he said, okay. And I went with that for a few weeks, and I thought, I can't do it. I'm not having any. But then I realized, because agriculture is about, what are we going to get out of it? What's in it for us? But then I realized, after a few weeks, that it would be ridiculous to make a film about soil and not have anything about agriculture, because that's the primary thing that's damaging the soil. We have to deal with that, and we have to make people understand why we have to change the way we farm, and change the way we think of soil, because most people are soil blind. They don't even see it. They have no idea what's going on. And we need to bring people to being soil conscious. So that's what I hope I've done. I think I've done that with this. It's been very, it's been used a lot. It's used in over 350 universities and teaching institutions by soil scientists, and it's shown all over the world in their classes and at their conferences, which is really, really good. And our government soil scientists in the National Research Conservation that was created during the Dust Bowl, they actually bought several copies of the film and show it to farmers to try to encourage them to readopt these practices that farmers used to do, which is cover crops, crop rotation, compost, things like that, things that went out with industrial agriculture. So that's heartening, and all those things also help with, as we saw in the film, that also helps with eliminating nitrogen. So that's kind of what I feel like now. I want to say. In terms of, I can say a lot about the scientists and how wonderful they are, but you can see that in the film. And that's, so maybe what we'll do is I think the other thing about the art is, one of the things I liked about it is that it shows, because we know now, but all the science about soil has taught us what ancient wisdom already knew, which is the soil is alive, the earth is alive, and that we're part of this system, and that we damage the soil to our peril. And I think for me to make a film where I do balance science and art and emotions and cognitive function, to balance all those things together so people feel like they understand it. They understand how important it is. It brings value to something that they didn't see before. And I know that a lot of people have seen this film. They go right out, and like one guy told me, he said, I saw your film, and then I went out the next morning and I dug up my lawn, and I'm going to put in cover crops, in this neighborhood. He said, I can't stand seeing that lawn out there. And what was I doing? What were they putting on that lawn from the lawn service? So the world, in spite of a lot of what's going on in the world right now, I think that people's commitment to eating organic food and not using chemicals and all those kinds of things, that isn't going to change. You can't go back. You can't go back and not care once you care. And so the work that I can do to help people in that process of trying to live in a way that improves, can improve the soil or improve the quality of our life in that way. That's what I think, that's what I feel. I feel good about that. I feel like that's kind of I see art as kind of an ennobling process. People see art. I know there's a lot of exceptions to that, especially now. But I feel like if you've seen something that moves you, it gives you a way, it gives you a sense of, this is what I can do. That's a very important thing now in this day and age. It's very important to embrace that sense of moving in a positive direction and feeling like you have allies in doing that. I think that's the value in this time, in this moment. So that's what I'll say. I mean, That's what I'll say. And then we can answer some questions. Should I look in chat and see? Should I look at that, Jennifer?
Yes, there are a lot of people who have been asking questions in the chat. So if you want
Okay.
to look at those, and if people would like to also raise their hands, you can see.
Okay,
But a
let's-
couple of questions already we have are: how did you first become interested in soil? Would you ever consider doing a sequel?
Oh, here. Well, I became interested in soil. I became interested in, well, I made a film called The Future of Food that Kevin talked about in the intro. Because I started eating organic food and became a vegetarian in 1970, because that was sort of part of what was going on back then for me. And that's the same year I made film. So I knew a lot about organic farming, and I knew about factory farming. I knew a lot even back when I was in my early 20s, and I became an organic fanatic and was like, you're the Thanksgiving guest from hell, you know, I'm not going to eat that. White sugar in it. Are you crazy? That's, you know, anyway. So, you know, I've become much better now. Although my eating habits are even more extreme, because I can pretty much eat totally organic food these days because it's so available. But I became very committed to that and very committed to film. And I made the film The Future of Food with the intention of changing the food system. And that film actually did help change the food system. I didn't know if anybody wanted to see it, but lots and lots of people wanted to see it. And it really helped kickstart the food movement and bring it to a deeper level, which is that the choices you make in terms of the food that you buy and eat change the food system. And there's all kinds of wonderful things going on now. And I think they're still going on no matter what, because people are not going to give that up, that weren't going on before that film came out. And that helped things on a grassroots level and on a community level, which is a bit different than you know, something being in the New York Times. Although, you know, I read the New York Times, but it's different when it has to do with that it's happening on the deeper level of changing communities and people starting farmers markets and people turning their farms organic, or people studying, practicing a certain kind of law instead of the law they were going to practice because they saw a film and they realized they want to go into patent law in order to protect seeds. So a lot of things happened because of that film. And then I wanted to keep in that same field because you know, I had such a positive experience, and I really like people in the whole world of food and agriculture and farming, because you can make changes. You know, we have so many problems in the world, but you can't, you know, a lot of them you feel like you can't really do that much about them except recognize them, you know, and acknowledge them and witness them. But food and farming and soil is something you can do something about because we make those choices every day. And so I made this film on, you know, food and agriculture that was all over the place and did well. So I thought, well, I'll go deeper. I'll make a film about soil. And I just didn't really know anything about it. And I was fascinated by it. So I thought, oh, I'll give it a whack and see if I can do this. And it was, you know, I started telling people that I was going to make a film on soil. You know, they said, what's your next film? It's on soil. And I actually didn't know how I was going to make it. You know, I didn't know what was going to be in the film. And then I came upon those things that I just talked about earlier about having 3 acts and soil as a protagonist. And I had great people to work with. I had these working for me, my company, Lily Films. I had 2 young women who had just gotten out of Sarah Lawrence, which is right near where you all are, where most of you are. And they helped set things up for me and find the experts, and you know, they really kicked ass there. And so I could focus on the content and focus on the ideas, and to really understand soil and have and the main thing to understand about soil is that it's alive and that we're part of it, and we come out of the soil and we return to the soil. And so we are people of the soil, and that's and how we treat the soil is a lot how we treat ourselves. So this is yeah, so that's why I made a film on soil, because I wanted to go deeper and I wanted to stay in that world and I wanted to help. And that's one thing people didn't know about. So here's another one. Why have you not included patterns of agriculture and soil conservation being practiced by native indigenous communities? Well, I did native community, I did India. So that was a native community. And let's see, I guess, yeah, I'm not, I think I did in my film, The Future of Food, I went to Mexico, and there was a big part about that, about corn and indigenous people, and corn as being grown in Mexico and coming out of that culture. So I felt like I'd sort of covered that in a previous film. And it's you know, it's hard to fit everything in. We did so much stuff that I couldn't put in the film because it would have been, it's already quite a big ass film. So there's so many things I was in love with that I couldn't put in. Okay. So how did you contact the professors who were interviewed? Well, I talked to one, like Ignacio is a friend of mine because he was in The Future of Food, and you find out who is a good speaker, who is recognized. I wanted senior scientists that were really respected in the field, and Jessie Beckett Parr, she knew a lot about this stuff, this young woman. And so between the two of us, we found out, who are the happening people, who are good people to interview, because they're articulate, and to try to get a kind of a balance. I interviewed some people that didn't make it in the film because we didn't have room and we didn't have time. But so that was how I chose them. And I tried to find women. There are a lot more women studying soil science than there used to be. But now a lot of the senior scientists, what they call senior scientists, who are very, well known, and their papers are respected and everything, more and more women are getting into that position. But the older scientists now, most of them are male. But we did find some women. There are some wonderful women in the film, Kate Scow and people like that. They helped a lot. Let's see. Is there something possible for a sequel? Well, no. No, I feel like this is it. This is my film on soil. I feel like it gives a really good sense of everything I want to say about soil. I'm working on a film now this will be my last film on agriculture, called Agrarian Elders Harvesting Wisdom, which is about a conference of 24 of the pioneering organic farmers in the United States and Canada, about looking back at their lives and how they were committed to organic agriculture, even though people told them they shouldn't. Warren Weber, who's in this film, the man of Bolinas, he's in it. There's some other people in it who are in the film, and that's I'm working on that now. It's kind of on simmering slowly, and so that'll be my last film on agriculture. Let's see, any other questions here that you can think of? Oh, regenerative agriculture used. Yeah, we used the word regenerative agriculture in the film. Yeah. It's in there. In the Rodale Institute talk a lot about where they did the water test, and they did the industrial farming soil and the organic soil. They talk about regenerative agriculture, and Fred Kirschenman talks about that too. So it actually is in there. I worked on it. It was like 3 or 4 years. I researched for a year, and then I worked on it for 3 or 4 years. This film, one of the things I was saying in my speech that I discarded was, in fiction films, you write the film, shoot the film, cut the film, and it's done. And in documentary films, almost every documentary, even if it's a portrait, or a contest, which are relatively finite, you have to find the film. You have to find it, and you shoot something, and then something else opens up, and then this works out, and then this inspires that, and then you learn this. And so that's often why documentaries take such a long time. Partly it's funding, because film is very expensive. And partly it's because you have to find You have to find it and get a sense of it and develop it and let it grow. They're very organic. And so you think, how could, it's not like you're working on it every minute, but something will happen, and then, you know, you'll move in a different direction. And then, so you have to find the film, and that takes time. Let's see, anything else here? What are the best things we can do to promote farming? Yeah, mimicking nature. That's what we need to do. We need to farm like nature. We need to give back to the soil. We need to give back to the soil. And I think that part of the, that the problems, and a lot of the problems in our culture are really so much like the problems we have in agriculture, is people don't give back. They just take. And if you take, things fall apart, you know? That is totally, to use a phrase that's used, you know, a lot, it's not sustainable. You can't keep taking from the soil or taking from a culture and expect it to thrive. It won't. You have to give back, you have to protect it, and there has to be a give and take, like breathing in and breathing out, like that, because soil is breathing, you know, and it's just like the whole point of the film, we'll have to feed it, you know, because the soil itself is in this cycle. And we you know, if I were Empress of the Universe and I could declare that we're going to just give back, you know, we're not going to do industrial agriculture, and people say we have to do it to feed the world, but most stuff that's grown in the Midwest with these genetically engineered seeds and all these chemicals, there's millions of acres, they don't even feed people. They feed cars and cows. They don't feed anybody. And there's more cases of obesity in this country and around the world. Obesity is a bigger problem than starvation. The problem is we're eating the wrong things. I mean, that's a whole, you know, we know that. So yeah, the Soil Conservation Service. Yeah, that's right. This is great. Nick says to everybody. Yes, ecological law. I'm for that. Yes, okay. Yeah, you can, so this is, yeah, kiss the ground. Well, I know, those people saw my film and thought, we need to make a film on soil. One of the people involved in it. It's a little weird. But anyway, yes, art and science is the way to do it. Okay, here's someone who did. Yeah, someone who did. I also have some, I have these short films called Sonatas of the Soil that I made with stuff I couldn't fit in this film. And you can go to our website, Symphony. You can find it at symphonyofthesoil.com. And there's a long interview I did with Vandana Shiva at her place in India. It's a walking around interview, walking around Navdanya, where she has her center. And it's, you can see him on, I think, Vimeo. And anyway, she's great. Vandana is great. I've done a bunch of stuff with her and she's very wonderful. But that film, there's a bunch of short films that go quite well. Yeah. Okay, see if I, yeah, the concert. Well, we need to get, you know, back to that. We need to get back to this. Okay. Yeah, I think the change in policy of US government and state government to return to subsidizing in chemical industrial agriculture to organic direction. Good luck with that. I mean, it's a battle. It's a battle, you know. And we were actually doing pretty well. I mean, we were making some gains, but now it's going backwards, you know, for a while. But I don't think people are going to give up realizing how important this is and choosing organic and Bayer is Monsanto, which is now Bayer, is in serious trouble, and more people are aware that those chemicals are very dangerous. And so that's that's really, you know, that's pretty clear now, and they're going to have to pay a lot of money, people that they poisoned. So that there's lots of reasons why people now would like to get off that chemical pesticide treadmill. Okay, any other questions here? Let's see. I don't even know where I am. Okay. So that was nice. That was good.
Thank you so much, Deborah. That was wonderful. If anybody else has a last minute question for Deborah, raise your hand now, because they're gonna let everyone unmute themselves. So raise your hand if you have another. Ernie Brooks has a question.
Ernie. Hi, Ernie. Where are you? Whoops.
Can
Oh,
Ernie?
here I see everybody. Hi, Margot. I wasn't seeing everybody. I could just see myself. There's Ernie. Hi, Ernie Brooks. He's in the shadows.
Yeah, Brian, can you unmute everyone, or unmute Ernie, please? Brian?
Gwen has
I'm unmuted, I think.
Yes,
good.
okay, great.
No, I just wanted to comment what you were saying about, because an interesting aspect, I've been in Queens for, most of the COVID difficulties there, and it's kind of the epicenter, and there's thousands of people who don't have enough food. So I was helping people set up these food distribution networks. And one of the things that's happened is some of the money from the first, I guess it was the CARES Act, went to fund this thing called Farms to Families.
Oh, yeah.
And so there they are, hundreds of people getting in line, and they're getting organic produce from organic farms in Long Island that actually, the government, I don't even know if they know it, but this friend of mine who helped set that up is doing all we can to keep that going and making sure the food is organic. And this is coming to, the people who live in public housing in Queens who are really living in a food desert, where they shop at, these really lousy grocery stores that sell basically junk food and the processed food, which is cheap and unhealthy. And there's high rates of diabetes, there's high rates of asthma. So it's interesting how this disaster has this sort of like bright thread. And of course, I'm hoping that that could build, and so much we know what so much depends on.
Yeah. Well, I think that because the food is out, the food is out there. It just needs these connections. It needs someone like your friend who can make that happen.
Yeah.
Before anyone can say no, to just turn it into a new system.
And I just hope everybody can see the movie on a big screen, because watching it, I didn't watch all of it again, but I remember seeing one of the screenings. Because
Ernie came to our premiere in New York.
Yeah, just the filmic quality is so good. The colors are so rich. And then watching it on a small screen where, unless your internet connection is really good, it's kind of, it doesn't really stop, but it kind of glitches a little bit from time.
I know. Well, I'm in Maine, so my internet is not good here at all. And it's the pants chug, chug, and it always drives me nuts when I see that. But
and I want to also ask, someone asked in the chat, but you didn't pick up, what effect what's happening in California is. Obviously, I'm sure you're happy not to be in California, which is really such. I'm
going to stay up here till the fire season is over, because I've been there when I've been evacuated twice.
Well, my older daughter who's living in Humboldt County she was evacuated, and she's just gone back, but it's like,
it's a hell zone. It's a hell zone. And it's just,
Is that to wake up people there? Or is it too late for any of them?
No, everybody's awake in California. We're doing everything we can, but it's climate change that's causing it. And it used to be just a few months, and now it's year round. It's just a different, I've lived in California for 45 years, and for 43 of them, I knew fire was dangerous, and I knew to be ready, and I knew all that stuff, but I didn't have this fear like now when I'm there, unless it's rain. And I have fear. There is a fear of, I will not be able to get out of here. You know, the place where I live, you know, you would be trapped in it, literally. You'd have to hike out with a backpack if the fire came up the wrong direction. But I think everyone in California is aware of it. I mean, California is, you know, we're trying to lead everything on climate change and all this kind of stuff. And this thing about, you know, sweeping the forest floor, majority of public land in California, like 53% of it is federal. Of the land in California, all the land in California is owned by the federal government.
Yeah.
So if they think we should change everything, they should change it. They're the ones that have to change it. So they should go ahead and get sweeping, whatever they think that is. It's ridiculous. But I've cleared a lot. I've cleared a lot on my land. Actually, you know, it's my single biggest expense the last 2 years have been clearing trees and brush.
Yeah.
And they're coming in, they tell you, you know, the fire chief tells you, cut that, cut that, cut that, cut that. And I want them to tell me what to cut. But it used to be, they'd say, oh, here's this, you know, make that bush shorter and do this, and you do that. And now it's like this. And so I had to take out this rosemary hedge that was 25 years old. And it's like, that has to go, because rosemary has so much oil in it. It just acts like you know, it's just like explosive. And I've seen on film what it can do. And for 1 year, I said, I can't take it out. I'm so attached to it. This year, take it out. It's gone. But it is really, yeah, it's creates a state of fear now.
And also, of course, it's tied into the dropping water table and how much water is used for the old style, well, not the old style, the bad style agriculture in California, which I guess is still predominant in a lot of the vegetable production, right? And fruit. Yeah,
in the valley, in the Central Valley.
Yeah,
in the Central Valley. I mean, they're trying. Everybody's trying, but it's hard to go back when you have that. You know, to go back from soil that's so dried out and so damaged and chemically dependent to bring that back to. I mean, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of organic matter to put back in there, and there's just where's that going to come from? You know, it's such a different system now. It's a huge challenge, but you know, I think that's where all our money should be going, instead of to the military and not bailing out farmers just to bail them out, but to help them change their practices that are healthier practices. That's what I would.
Well, not to jump in on this, but I think the Central Valley is probably going to run out of water.
Yes,
there's no doubt about it. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. That's going to be the big battle there.
Right.
And there's, you know, even if your soil, you know, the better you treat your soil, the more it absorbs water. So you have less flooding and the better water use it has. So you don't have to irrigate as much, but getting the soil to that place, once the soil has been so damaged, it just takes a lot, you know, takes a lot of organic matter, and but yeah, you're right. Already people, you know, there's all kind, like water is so valuable in certain parts of California that people make more money selling their water rights to other farmers than growing crops themselves. So the system has become deformed. Yeah. And people didn't know that. I mean, I think about all this stuff about agriculture when they started, even when they started with nitrogen and all this kind of stuff, you know, they didn't know. So we know that, okay, they didn't know, but now we know. That's the thing. Now we know. So I think there's no excuse now for just pretending it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful talk, Deborah. Thank you so much.
Well, there was a certain mood after the film, and then kind of what I prepared, you know, like English language versus film language, and this is film language. It sort of seemed like it didn't really matter. I mean, I said some of it, but it sounded like, you know, we were in this mood about it. So I just took from it what I thought.
That was really interesting to hear that evolution there of making this shift into film.
Yeah. Well, you just start, you know, film is it's so engaging, and it's so, you have to think, visually.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we do use words, and words are powerful. And so you've got all these elements that you're trying to make happen, but also keep people engaged and get your point across, but not too much, because if you say too much, then you lose people because they get overwhelmed. And so you have to say, that's one of the things I wanted to say about scientists is that the scientists, and I always do a lot of review scientists, their books and their papers and everything, so I know what to ask them. But a lot of scientists, they give an answer, and it's complex, because science is complex, and it suggests this, and then there's this, and sometimes there's that, and they go on for like 5 minutes, and you can't use all 5 minutes. So you have to say, do you think you could say that in 1 minute? And they do often. They realize it, that they can't have 5-minute explanation. But
that's one of the most reassuring things about scientists, is the fact that they can talk with such precision and at such length.
That's right. That's right. And they're very careful about what's true and the exact words. I've had this, to use words exactly, like scientists use it exactly, and that's exactly what they mean. And like when I write something in a film, that's exactly what I mean. And it's interesting to see people write about a film, and then they kind of say it in their own words, and they get it completely wrong just because they're not using the exact words, and they kind of miss the point. So,
and this issue could not be more relevant than at this particular moment. Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was.
We have science totally rejected by.
Well, this is what I was.
And truth itself now being questioned. We have alternate facts. We have fake news. It's, the misidentified fake news. It's just everything now somewhere. To hear scientists talk is like such a. It's just.
Well, scientists are. I think to politicize science is just it's yet another one of the really terrible ideas that are happening. But science like I said, science is from the Latin word scire, which means to know. Science is about what we know. They create a theory, and then they beat it up to see if it's true. And if it lives through being beaten up by all the scientists, then it's true, because that's what they've observed. And so when you say I'm against science, you mean I'm against knowing. That's all it means. I'm against knowing what the truth is. That in itself is really shocking.
Yeah. Yep.
How can they not want to know? Well, we know why, I guess.
Yeah. And what did Trump say the other day? I don't think science knows. He made a little aside to that effect.
I don't think he really understands what science is.
And smirked while he said it.
He's trying to destroy the whole idea of, well, here's the funny thing. I don't like to get political, but now Scientific American, I read, has endorsed Biden. It's the first time in their history.
I saw that,
since the 1860s that they've ever endorsed a presidential candidate. Yeah. But that's, science is but they've done studies, and actually Americans really like science. People like science. They want to know. That's part of human nature. So this is another kind of thing where they're trying to sort of do I think at the realm of the evil opposite. If you lie enough, you enter the realm of the evil opposite, where everything that happens is the complete opposite of what the right thing is.
Right.
Anyway. Well, I got to sign off. Great to see you. Hope to see you.
See you, Ernie.
See you all in the flesh, for real.
The flesh sometime, maybe in California.
Okay.
Bye, Jennifer. Bye, everyone. Hi, Margot.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. This was great.